digital medium wave. This is Radio City, your swinging tower of power.
This is Radio Caroline. It is now 12 midnight. We want to say welcome to the new phase of broadcasting from Caroline. I want you to remember something. That is a station that belongs to you and is right. Cannot ever be taken away from you.
Dale, what are you doing there?
I'm looking out the porthole window. It really is amazing to see all those cars out there and to know that we're not alone in this our most important moment. It's tremendous.
Of course we're not alone, you.
I've just been outside and all the lights are flashing across the water, and it really is a tremendous sight to see. It really is.
Let's say a couple of thank yous now. Robbie and myself would like to thank our leader, Mr. Ronan O'Reilly, and Mr. Philip Solomon, all who work for Radio Caroline to make it possible for us to sit here and speak to you now. Also to thank the many, many people who have been with Caroline.
Well, there we end broadcasting in the light program, not just for today, but as it seems forever. The light program, that is, as it's known now, is closing down. But in only a few hours' time, the BBC with Paul Hollingdale will open up on 247 metres and 1500 metres and VHF. That's at 5:30. And then at 7 o'clock on 247 metres, Tony Blackburn will open and swing into our new Radio 1 network.
10 seconds to go before Radio 1, Tony Blackburn, and Radio 2, Paul Hollingdale. Stand by for switching. Get tuned to Radio 1 or 2. 5, 4, 3. Radio 2, Radio 1, go.
The voice of Radio 1. Just for fun. Music too much.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the exciting new sound of Radio 1.
Yes, you can learn a great deal about the start of Radio 1 just by looking at the Radio Times. For a start, there's this wonderful dolly bird with Radio 1 all over her flipping skirt there, introducing the swinging new radio service. Well, it was probably fairly swinging, but I'm not so sure that it was very new. You see, if you turn to the last Monday of the Light programme before Radio 1 started, what have you got at 1 o'clock lunchtime? Monday, Monday, in big letters, with the Ray McVeigh Band and his singers, introduced by Dave Cash. And what happened the first Monday after Radio 1 had started? This wonderful revolution had taken place. 1 o'clock, this time it says, Dave Cash presents Monday, Monday with Ray McVeigh and his singers. You see, you've got exactly the same old Light programme stuff. Don't forget, although everybody says, oh, of course, we all know Radio 1 was launched by that thrusting young pirate, Tony Blackburn, of course, playing the pops right at the start of the day. The second programme on the air was Junior Choice with Nellie the Elephant and the Runaway Train, introduced, I see, by Leslie Crowther of Crackerjack. I think both the government and the BBC had realised that there was a young audience coming up in the 60s that simply weren't listening to the good old BBC anymore. They were used to all this piratical pop that was coming out. I think the government probably said, look, we can get rid of these cowboys, but if we do, we're going to have egg on our face and who's going to vote for us at the next election, you know, because this is a popular thing. We'll get rid of it, you replace it. I think Radio 1 and the BBC misjudged what it was all about, frankly, at the time. You see, kids who listened to the Pirates were used to hearing music for the first time, rather like you turn on a tap. You know what's going to come out. It's not going to be cocoa one day, it's going to be water. You get water out of a tap. They knew when they got home, they'd turn it on and the old pop singles would be coming out. I'm afraid we had too much of a hangover from the Light programme. When Radio 1 started, it still had 1 foot in the Light programme and 1 foot in the present, as you might say. I always remember on that very first Saturday at, I think about the 12:30 news, Emperor Roscoe was doing all that uptight, out-of-sight stuff on Radio 1 at his news time. And the announcer came on and said, and now on Radio 1, it's 12:30. Here is the news, in English.
Last month, when the new act came into force, O'Reilly moved his head office to Amsterdam. He also started branches in Paris and New York and changed the name to Caroline International.
Caroline International, station with the happy difference.
Makes you feel good all over.
During that time, we didn't have a lot of advertisers because they were getting a bit afraid at that stage. So we depended on record companies and music companies. And we began a system by which we would allow them to present their records to us, and we would charge them so much a week for playing them.
So we used to get a playlist then of about 8 records an hour that we had to play. And the Radio Caroline took money for playing them. And that really used to piss me off. And I used to have huge rows with Robbie Dale, who's the DJ, said, we've got to do it, Johnny. It's the only way we're going to stay on the air. We've got to play this shit, you know, because this is what's bringing the money in to keep it going. But I just felt that that was, after having had the freedom of playing whatever record you thought was the right record to play at any particular time, to suddenly play some of the awful stuff. I mean, if somebody puts out a good record, you don't have to pay anybody to play it.
In '68, we were in a pretty rough state because all we had was the revenue from the records, and it wasn't really enough. The boat needed a fortune spending on it. It was really held together with sticking plaster in those days, and I wouldn't want it to have been honest myself.
And the tragedy of it was, for me, that struggling with 24-hour trips to Holland, being sick the whole time, wanting to throw myself off the boat because I never felt so ill in all my life. But I had to keep going because I wanted to keep it going. I didn't want it to die, you know, that suddenly, because of the financial situation, because the bills weren't paid to the people who were supplying the crew and the food and that, the Caroline just disappeared. One morning, March the 2nd, 1969, crews turned up at 5 a.m. on Dutch tugs, cut the anchor chain and just towed us into Amsterdam. And that was the end of it.